Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today for Spooky Month, we are going to check out the subreddit No Sleep. And it's a Reddit page where people post scary and creepy encounters and stories. I'm not sure, I'm assuming these are probably like folklore or creepypasta style. They're probably, maybe there's like a personal encounter here or there, but a lot of them are written in first person. So I think it'd be really cool to check out. Yeah, I've never checked out this subreddit before, but I'm really in the mood for some scary stories, and since it's October, this is the perfect time to check it out. Okay, so I pulled up three with titles that I thought seemed really interesting. I searched by like top of all time instead of most recent so that we can check out some comments to these and see people's responses. Yeah. So the first one, let me turn on some music, some spooky music. Okay, so the first one that I pulled up that I thought was really interesting is titled "Something Walks Whistling Past My House Every Night at 3:03 a.m." Okay, let's check it out. Every night, no matter the weather, something walks down our street whistling softly. You can only hear it if you're in the living room or the kitchen when they walk by, and it always starts at exactly 3:03. The sound starts faint, somewhere near the beginning of the lane near the Carson place. We're towards the middle of the street, so the whistling moves past us before fading away in the direction of the cul-de-sac. When I was younger, my sister and I would sneak into the kitchen some nights to listen. Mom and Dad didn't like that, and we'd catch hell if they found us out there. But they were never too hard on us since we always stuck to the one big rule. Don't try to look at whatever was whistling. My neighborhood is a funny place. I've lived here since I was 6, and I love it. The houses are small but well kept. Good-sized yards, plenty of spaces to roam. There are a lot of other kids here my age. I turned 13 back in October. We grew up together and would always play foursquare in the cul-de-sac or roam around from back porch to back porch in the summer. This was a good place to grow up. I'm old enough to see it. And there's only the two strange things here, the night whistling and the good luck. The whistling never bothered me much. Like I said, I couldn't even hear it from my bedroom. But Mom and Dad don't like talking about it, so I've stopped asking questions. My dad is a strong guy, tall and calm. He has an accent since he moved to the US as a kid. His family, my grandparents, they're from the islands. That's what they call it. My dad, the only time he isn't so calm is if the whistler comes up. He talks a little quicker then. Eyes move faster. And he tells us not to think about it so much and to always remember the one rule. The big rule. Don't try to look outside when the whistler goes past. Not that we could look even if we wanted. See, there are shutters on the inside of every window. Thick pieces of heavy canvas that pull down from the top and latch to the bottom of the window frame. Each latch even has a small lock, about the size of what you'd find on a diary. My dad locks those shutters every night before we all go to bed and keeps the key in his room. My mom, I don't know what she thinks about the whistling. I've seen her out in the living room before at 3:03 when the sound starts. I could see her if I cracked my door open just an inch to peek. She's not out there often. At least I haven't caught her much. But once or twice a month, I think she sits out there on our big red couch just listening. The whistler has the same tune every night. It's cheerful. Da-da, da-da, da-dum. Da-da, da-da, da-dum. Remember how I said there are two odd things about where I live? Well, besides our night whistler, everyone in our neighborhood is really lucky. It's hard to explain. And Dad doesn't like us talking about this part much either. But good things just seem to happen to people around here a lot. Usually, it's small things, winning a radio contest, or getting an unexpected promotion at work, or finding some arrowheads buried in the yard, you know, the authentic kind. The weather's pretty good, and there's no crime, and everybody's gardens bloom extra bright in the fall. A million little blessings, I've heard my mom say about living here. But the main reason we stay here, why we moved here in the first place, is my sister Nola. She was born very sick, something with her lungs. We couldn't even bring her home when she was born, only visit her in the hospital. She was so small, I remember. Small even compared to the other babies. A machine had to breathe for her. We moved into our house here to be closer to the hospital. As soon as we moved here, Nola started getting better. The doctors couldn't figure it out. They chalked it up to whatever they were doing, but we all could tell they were confused. But my parents knew. Even I knew. Nola getting better was just another of the million little blessings we got for living in our neighborhood. So that's why we stayed, even after we found out that, for every small miracle that happens here every day, now and then, some bad things happen. But they only happen if you look for the Whistler. See, our neighborhood has a welcoming committee. They show up with macaroni casserole and a gift basket and a manila folder whenever someone new moves in. They're very friendly. 4 people showed up when we moved in 7 years ago. The committee made small talk, gave me a Snickers bar, and took turns holding Nola. It was her first week out of the hospital, so they were extra careful. Then, the committee asked to speak to my parents in private, so I was sent to my room where I still managed to hear nearly every word. The welcoming committee told my parents about how nice the neighborhood was. Really exceptionally hard to explain kind of nice. And then they told my parents about the even harder to explain whistling that happened every morning at 3:03 and ended at the tick of 3:05. The group, our new neighbors, warned my parents that the whistling was quiet, would never harm or hurt us, as long as we didn't look for what was making the sound. This part they stressed, and I pushed my ear into the door, straining to hear them. People who went looking for the whistler had their luck change, sometimes tragically. A black cloud would hang over anyone that looked. Anything that could go wrong would. The manila envelope the committee brought over contained newspaper clippings, stories about car crashes and ruined lives, public deaths, and freak accidents. Not everyone dies, I heard the head of the committee tell my dad, but the life goes out of them. Even if they live, there's no light in them ever again. No presence. My mom, I could tell she wasn't taking it seriously. She kept asking if this was some prank they play on new neighbors. At one point, my mom got angry, accused the committee of trying to scare us out of our new home, asked them if they were racist on account of my dad being from the islands. My dad calmed her down, told her he could tell our new neighbors were sincere and they were just trying to help us. He explained that he grew up hearing these kinds of stories from his mom and that he knew there were strange things that walked among us. Some of those strange things were good, and some were bad, but most were just different. After the committee left, Dad went out to the hardware store, bought the canvas blinds, the latches, and the locks, and installed them on every window in the house after dinner. That first night in our new house, I crept out of my room at 3 a.m., only to find my dad awake, sitting on the living room couch, holding my baby sister. My dad held up his finger in a shh motion, but patted the couch next to him. I sat and we waited. At exactly 3:03, we heard the whistling. Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. It came and went just like our neighbors said. The whistling returns each night, and we never look, and we enjoy a million little blessings every day. Nola breathes on her own, and she's grown into a strong, clever girl. My dad even joined the welcoming committee. We don't get new neighbors often, but why would anyone want to leave? But when a new family moves in, my dad and the committee bring the macaroni casserole, a gift basket, and the manila folder. I can always tell by the look on my dad's face when he comes back if the family took the committee seriously or if we'd be getting new neighbors again very soon. Not long ago, a family moved in directly next to us. The previous owner, Miss Maddie, passed away at age 105. She lived a good, long life. Our new neighbors seemed like they'd fit in just fine. They believed the welcoming committee, took my dad's advice about the locking shutters since they had a young child of their own. Whatever newspaper clippings were in that manila envelope, whatever evidence, my dad never let us see. But I imagine it must have been awfully convincing since our neighbors got along with no issues for the first month. One night, when our new neighbors had to leave town, they sent their son, Holden, to stay with us. He was 12, a year under me in school. I didn't know him well before that night, but as soon as his parents dropped him off after dinner, I could tell it was going to be a bad time. "Do you know who is always out there whistling every night?" Holden asked the moment the adults left the room. The three of us were sitting in the den, some Disney movie playing idly on the television. My sister and I exchanged a glance. "We don't talk about that," I said. "I think it's that weirdo that lives in the big yellow house on the corner," Holden said. "Mr. Tolles?" my sister asked. "No way, he's really nice." Holden shrugged. "Must be a psycho killer then." Nola tensed. "We don't talk about it," I repeated. "Let's go in my room and play Nintendo." We spent the next few hours playing games, eating popcorn, and then watching movies. A typical sleepover, but I could see Holden was getting antsy. After my parents had wished us a good night, locked the blinds, and gone to bed, Holden stood up from his beanbag and walked over to where Nola and I were sitting on my bed. "Have you ever even tried looking?" he asked. "It's nearly time." Like most sleepovers, we conveniently ignored any suggestion of a bedtime. I was shocked to see he was right. It was almost 3 a.m. I sighed. "We don't... See, I can't even try to look because my dad locks the blinds every night and hides the key," he continued, ignoring me. "So does our dad," said Nola. "No," replied Holden. "No, he doesn't." "You saw him do it," I said, a little sharper than I meant to sound. Holden grinned. "Your dad locks the blinds, yeah, but he doesn't hide the key. He keeps it right on his normal keychain." "So?" I asked, worried I already knew what he would say next, because I had noticed that my dad didn't bother hiding the key anymore after all of these years, because he knew we took it seriously. "So after your dad locked up, but before your parents went to bed, I went to the bathroom, and on my way, I may have peeked into their room, and I may have seen your dad's keychain on his nightstand, and I maybe went and borrowed the keys to the blinds." Nola and I stared, and his grin only grew wider. "You're lying," I said. Holden shrugged. "You can check if you want. Just open your parents' door and look. You'll see his keychain right there on the nightstand." "Stay here," I told both of them. "Don't move a muscle." I hurried over to my parents' room, but hesitated at the door. If Holden wasn't lying, my dad would be angry. Beyond angry. I was scared thinking about it, but more scared of an open window with the whistler right outside. I opened the door, barely an inch, and looked in, but it was too dark to see. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the room. 2 steps into the dark, I froze. The whistling started, and I could hear it clearly. From my parents' room. I never realized, but they must have heard the sound every night since we moved into the house. They never told us. I don't think I could have slept through it. I stood there, listening to the whistling come closer, unsure whether I should turn on a light or call out for my dad. Soft sounds from the living room brought me back to reality. "Nola!" I yelled, running out of my parents' room. Holden and Nola were standing near the front door next to a window. Holden wasn't lying. I could see him fumbling with the lock on one of the blinds. I heard a click. He did have the key. Holden let out a quick laugh. Nola stood next to him, hunched up, afraid but maybe curious. The whistling was right outside our door now. I think I made a sound, called out. I can't remember. Time felt frozen, clock hands nailed to the face, but I found myself moving. I'm not fast. I've never been athletic. Somehow, though, I covered the space between myself and Nola in a moment. My eyes were locked on her, but I heard Holden pull the blind all the way down so it could release. I heard the snap of it start to raise, and I heard the whistling just on the other side of the window. But I had my arms around Nola, and I turned us so she was facing away from the window. At the same time, I jammed my eyes shut. The blind whipped open. The whistling stopped. I felt Nola shaking in my arms. "Don't look, okay?" I told her. "Don't turn around." We were positioned so that she was facing back towards the hallway, and I was facing the window. My eyes were still closed. I felt her nod into my shoulder. I reached out with the arm not holding Nola and tried to hold Holden. My hand brushed against his arm. He was shaking worse than Nola. "Holden?" I asked. Silence. I reached past him and gingerly felt for the window, eyes still sealed shut. The glass was cold against my fingertips, colder than it should have been for the time of year. I moved my hand up the window, searching for the string to the blind. The glass began to get warmer the further I reached, and there was a gentle hum feeding back into my fingertips. I tried not to think about what might be on the other side of the window. Finally, I touched the string and yanked the blinds shut. I opened my eyes. In the dim light leaking out from the kitchen, I could make out Holden, pale and small, staring at the now closed window. "Holden?" I asked again. He turned towards me, and he screamed. Everything became a flurry of motion. Lights sparked to life in the hall, then the living room. My parents' footsteps thudded across the hardwood floor. I didn't turn to look back at them. My eyes were glued to Holden. He was pale, had bit his lip so hard there was a thin red line of blood running down his chin, and he'd wet himself. "What happened?" my dad asked from behind me. I managed to swivel away from Holden and looked back. He looked. I'd never seen my dad scared before, but I saw it that night. In that moment, an old, ugly terror stitched on his face, a parent's fear. "Just Holden?" he mouthed to me. I nodded yes. My dad let out a breath. He looked so relieved I nearly expected him to cheer. But then he turned to Holden and my dad's face changed. I wondered if he felt bad for feeling good that Holden was the only one that looked. There was a knock at the door. We all froze. Holden whimpered. "Don't answer it," my mom said. She stood at the threshold of the hall. I'd always thought she was a skeptic and just humored my dad about the windows and the whistler, but that night we were all believers. I noticed that both of my parents held baseball bats they must have taken from their bedroom. The knock came again, a little louder this time. "Please don't open the door," Holden whispered. My dad walked over to him, hugged him close. "We won't," my dad promised, still holding his bat. "Nothing is coming in here tonight." Thud, thud, thud. This time, the knocking was loud enough to rattle the door. Holden screamed again, and Nola clutched her arms around my neck. My mom came over and knelt down next to us, wrapping my sister and me close. Thud, thud, thud. "Call the police," my mom whispered to my dad. The knocking instantly stopped. My dad looked over his shoulder at us. "Do you think?" He was cut off by frantic knocking that trailed off to a polite tap, tap, tap. "Police," something said from the other side of the door. The voice from outside sounded exactly like my mom, like a parrot repeating the words back to her. "Police, call, the police. Tap, 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 police." My mom pulled us closer. "Police, police, police, police. Please stop," I heard her whisper. "I don't think calling them will help," my dad said. "How will we know when they're the ones at the door?" The knocking came back harder than before. The door shook. Then it stopped. After a long moment, I heard the knocking again, but it was coming from our back door. We all turned towards the back door, but the knocking immediately returned to the front door. Front to back to front. Loud, then quiet, then loud again. Suddenly, the sound was coming from both doors at once. Big, heavy blows like a sledgehammer. Then something started rapping against all of the windows in the house. Then the walls. It was like we were living inside a drum with a dozen people trying to play at once. Or we were a turtle, and something was attempting to claw us out of our shell. "Stop!" Holden yelled. The knocking died. "I won't tell," Holden said, staring at the door. "I promise I won't tell anyone what I saw. Just please go away." We waited for nearly a minute. Then we heard it. A soft tap, tap, tap coming from the window Holden had looked through earlier. Holden started to cry, sobbing like a prisoner watching gallows being built outside their cell. My dad held him, brushed his hair but never lied to him, never told him things would be okay. The tapping at the window went on for the rest of the night. We huddled together in the living room for I don't know how long. Eventually, my mom tried to take us kids into my room, while my dad stayed to watch the door. But the second we moved into my bedroom, the knocking came back, so loud it was impossible to ignore. I was afraid the door couldn't take it. We went back to the living room, and the knocking stopped. Only the tap, tap, tap on the window remained. None of us slept that night. The tapping stopped around 7 a.m. That's about the time the sun comes up here. We waited another 2 hours before my dad opened the blinds from one window. He made us all go back to my parents' bedroom first. I heard him open the door, then come back in. "Okay," he told us. "It's done." Holden's parents came back around lunchtime. My mom and dad walked Holden over to his house, and they all went inside for quite a while. Nola and I watched from the window. She stuck to me the whole day, right at my side, sometimes holding my hand. When my parents came back, they looked grim, but wouldn't tell us what they said to Holden's family. It was a Sunday, so we all spent the day together, ordered pizza, and watched movies. That night, everyone slept in my room. Nola and my mom in the bed with me, my dad in a chair he pulled over. There was no knocking that night, or any night since. We didn't see much of Holden or his parents for the rest of that week, but by Thursday there was a moving truck in their driveway. Nola and I watched them packing up the whole afternoon after school. What sticks with me most is how tired Holden and his parents looked. All three had the same pallor, grim mouths and lightless eyes. Even from across the street, I could tell something was very wrong. Holden and his family were gone before sunset. I remember what the original welcoming committee said to my parents when we moved in. Not everyone who looks at the Whistler dies, but even those that live have the light go out of them, and the rest of their lives are full of misfortune, a million little tragedies. I think Holden's parents must have looked, either to comfort him if they didn't believe, or share the burden if they did. I watched Nola some days, happy and young and alive, and I wonder if I'd been slower, if she'd looked out the window that night. Would I have looked too? To comfort her? To share that burden? I'm glad I don't have to find out. We still live in that house, in that neighborhood. We still hear our Whistler walking past every night. The blessings, the luck, the good things here are too good to leave. But we're careful. We don't have friends over to spend the night anymore, and my dad hides the key to the blinds very, very well. Not that I've gone looking. Some things you just don't need to look for. And that's the end of the story. Wow, that was super uber creepy. Wow, I'm gonna be honest right here. If there was someone who habitually walked around the neighborhood in the cul-de-sac and whistled every single night at 3:03 a.m., I would call the police for noise, for like a nuisance complaint or something, because that's really, really creepy. Better yet, I probably would just move, because I don't know how you'd be able to manage listening to that whistling every single night in like the middle of the night, you know? That's really creepy. Whether or not it's actually a monster or if it's just like a creepy person stalking the streets outside, either is really bad and you don't want to encounter either of those. So honestly, I would just I would report it and then move. I wouldn't even stick around to see what happens next. I don't want any type of curse to follow me. I'm like somewhat superstitious, so I don't want to test fate. Like, I will not try out the Bloody Mary ritual in the mirror at night, because I don't want to test my luck, you know? I know some people do it. I don't want to be one of them. So actually, before we read comments, I want to see what this is. GTM. There's 2 links at the bottom of the story, so I want to see what this is. GTM. Oh, so this is just how to submit, I guess? Maybe? And oh no, these are their other stories that they've posted. Okay, so that's what GTM is. And hello, is he the Reddit poster? Maybe, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, either way, really creepy story. Poor Holden. I have no idea what he saw, but it must have been really bad. And then it decided to scare the heck out of them by tapping and banging on the doors for the whole night. Forget it. Oh my gosh. And it sounded like a mimic. It could mimic the mom's voice. So, ooh. Let's see what people have to say about this story. OP has a wonderful way with words and has shared his experience with us so poignantly. We appreciate so many of you sharing your appreciation with him. However, please remember that OP is here to share a scary experience with us all, and we ask all comments to address the experience itself, and not the OP's ability to share it so well. Thank you. P.S. OP, you are so unbelievably brave. You saved your sister's life that night. Yeah, so my question is, I don't know. I'm not sure if these are all supposed to be first-hand accounts, like actual scary encounters and experiences, or if these are supposed to be just like well-crafted first-person stories that are told to make it sound like it's real and believable, or if it's a mix. I'm not really sure. Either way, If I was OP, I would move the heck out of that neighborhood. Everybody's just like, wow, you're alive? You're one very wise kid to take it seriously and follow your dad's lead. Poor Holden, thinking it was a game or something, messing around with dark powers not of this world. I love the telling of the story, very well done. Yeah, the narration was really good. Opened the Reddit at exactly 3:02, saw the title, and just knew I had to read it. Best choice I've ever made. This was phenomenal. I hope your family keeps having a good life, and I'm so glad you saved your sister that night. Oh man, now I'm gonna be wary of like getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom at like 3:03. Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, so what did you guys think of the first story? That was super uber creepy. Have you ever had any similar experiences? Do you ever hear anything go bump in the night? Or you hear things like outside of your window at night when you're trying to sleep? Thankfully, I haven't had that experience personally, and I hope to not have that experience. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one is called A Package Marked Return to Sender. Right away, I'm just having like the worst scenarios going through my head. What could have been inside the package, right? Well, let's find out. Okay. My neighbor is one of those annoying wannabe YouTube personalities. Over the years, I've seen him cough out cinnamon, lay flat on the hood of his car as it slowly creeps down the driveway, and douse himself in lukewarm water, all the while screaming epic win, epic fail, or F, epic maintenance of the status quo for all I know. It can get tiring to watch him go about his shenanigans in the pursuit of viral fame. So, when he knocked on my door the other day, told me he was going away for a few weeks, and asked that I get his mail, honestly, it was a relief. I can't explain the peace of mind I had knowing I didn't have to brace myself for any of his stupidity for a while. I was always afraid his stunts would wind up bleeding over into my life. Things were pretty normal for the first couple of days. He received a few bills, a bit of spam, and what I could only assume was a birthday card. Then, one evening, I got home to find a cardboard box waiting on his front porch. In big red letters was written, "Return to Sender." I'm no small fry, but I admit I had trouble lifting the box on my own. It was really freaking heavy. Lugging it across the road to my house was even harder, and I quickly realized there was no way I was going to drag it up the stairs and through my front door. I decided I'd leave his package in my garage. It wasn't like I kept my car in there. The garage door was a piece of shit that refused to open without a good tug and a whack. It was less trouble just leaving the car in the driveway than it was to fight with the garage door every morning and night. In hindsight, I should have set the package down while I struggled to open the tricky door. But you know how it is when you've got a good grip on something. No point in setting it down if you don't have to. It was as I kicked the door for a third time that I lost my grip on the package, and it fell to the ground. I heard a light crack inside. Shit, I cursed. I hoped I hadn't broken anything important, but I figured I wouldn't tell my neighbor about it and let him assume the break happened en route. Hands free, I finally managed to get the garage door unstuck, and boy did it screech in protest as it rolled up and over me. I dragged the box the rest of the way, setting it in the corner for whenever my neighbor would come back to claim it, and then I forgot all about it, until a few days passed, that is. I'm not sure exactly how long it took for the smell to waft in from the crack under the garage-to-house door, but it came in slow progression. It was a sickly sweet odor similar to a skunk, and for the first few days after I smelled it, I genuinely assumed that's exactly what it was. Roadkill that had left its mark on my house. It was only when I realized the scent was growing more intense instead of fading that I went looking for a source. That's when I opened the garage door, and that's when the odor knocked me back, holding my nose. The culprit wasn't hard to identify. The only change in my garage was the box in the corner. I remember thinking it must have been one of those meat of the month subscription boxes. The meat must have gone rancid from being left out of the fridge for so long. How much meat could have been there for the box to have been so large and heavy? An entire freaking cow? I covered my nose as I approached the box, a pair of scissors in my hands. I probably wouldn't have needed them to open it, as it had become soggy enough at the bottom to poke through with a finger, but I wasn't about to poke my finger into spoiled meat juices. That soggy bottom was the reason I had to open the box in the first place. If I tried to drag it out whole, everything would spill onto the floor. I was going to have to dump the pieces of meat one garbage bag at a time, and take them down to the dumpster, a process I wasn't looking forward to. My scissors tore through the tape along the top of the cardboard box. I thought the smell couldn't get any worse, but as I flipped the flaps open, I discovered a whole new gamut of stink. It was like opening a burning oven, but instead of a heat wave, I was met with waves of piss, sweat, shit, and putrefaction. It was so bad that I staggered back and had to force down the puke begging to guzzle out of me. I don't think I could have handled that scent mingling with the horrors coming out of the box. I'm not ashamed to admit I ran out the door for a breath of fresh air, but in the short time I'd spent in the garage, the smell had become so ingrained in the fabric of my clothes that it clung to me like a shadow. Nothing I tried could keep the smell out of my nostrils. Not air fresheners, not a face mask, not 3 showers and a change of clothes. Every second that box lay open in my garage was another second the smell was allowed a foothold into my home. I had to bite the bullet. I returned to the garage, the flaps of the box still open as though inviting me to look. I was prepared, a clothespin pinning my nostrils shut, a garbage bag in one hand, the strongest cleaner I could find on the other, and long rubber gloves to keep my skin from having to touch what was inside. But as it turns out, I needed none of those things. I wouldn't have to touch or clean the contents of that box. I would only have to suffer the nightmares every night. You see, there was meat in that box, but it didn't come from a cow or a pig. No, it was worse than that. It was my neighbor, dead. Still in one piece, but dead. I called the cops, and naturally they took me in for interrogation. It's kind of hard not to suspect the man with a corpse in his garage after all. Thankfully, they soon realized I wasn't involved. My DNA might have been all over the box, the smell might have left a mark throughout my house, but there was one piece of irrefutable evidence in my neighbor's own hands that proved my innocence: a vlogging camera. They showed me the footage only once. I'm not sure if they were allowed to, or if they felt so bad for me they figured it couldn't hurt. Either way, I saw it. My neighbor was sitting in the box outside of a shipping facility, laughing as he told the world how he was going to mail himself across state lines. He'd brought pee bottles, food, a pillow, and a few flashlights. His friend, a guy I'd seen at his place several times to help with his stunts, closed the lid and presumably dropped him off for shipment. Throughout the next couple of hours, or days, I'm honestly not sure, my neighbor recorded a few short clips about his progress. I think I'm in a truck now. I can feel it moving. Must be in a warehouse. Pretty warm here. Still got plenty of food. That kind of stuff. And then, on the last entry, the box toppled over. He broke his neck, and that was it. The camera recorded until either the memory card got too full, or the battery died. There's one thing I didn't tell the police after they showed me the video. One thing I heard in the footage that will haunt me the day I die. Just after the tumble that broke my... Wait, let me read this again, sorry, okay. There's one thing I didn't tell the police after they showed me the video. One thing I heard in the footage that will haunt me the day I die. Just after the tumble that broke his neck, I heard the familiar screeching sound of my garage door. Oh no! Oh no! So that means the neighbor broke his neck when the OP accidentally dropped the box. Because when OP dropped the box, he heard a loud crack sound from inside. Oh my gosh! He's the one that broke the neighbor's neck inside the box. Oh no! Oh my gosh! Oh my god! Oh, I hope this is not a true story. That would be terrible. But even then, it's not like he didn't kill him on purpose. It was an accident. He didn't know what was inside. It wasn't intentional. But still, knowing that you caused the neighbor's unfortunate death will haunt you forever. Wow. Let's see. I was always afraid his stunts would wind up bleeding over into my life. Welp. Yep, right? Welp. Literally. This was a really good read. Glad they let you go. Heavy box. Okay, there's gonna be a corpse inside. A few days later, the box starts to stink. Yep, there's definitely a corpse inside. Box turns out to contain neighbor's corpse. Okay, I didn't see that coming. Maybe he was murdered by haters? Turns out OP was a murderer by accident. Oh my gosh, I really hope this isn't a true story. Can anyone confirm? Glad I unsubbed his channel. His stunts were getting stupid anyway. His last is this real? Wait. Was this real? Oh my gosh. I just saw those shipping box videos trending on YouTube too. They didn't seem like too smart of an idea, but a lot of them seemed fake. Great story. Good luck getting that smell out of your garage. Even if you were the one who dropped the box, it's not your fault in the slightest. He was the one stupid enough to mail himself to his own address. He should have at least warned you that he was mailing himself. Seriously, you are not at fault for anything. This is his own idiocy. Is this real? Oh my gosh, if this is real, this is terrible. Wait. Wait, I need... Oh no. There's a link at the bottom. Is that just the, their posters link, or is this... This is the poster, the Reddit poster, but is this real? I need to check really quickly, okay, guys? I just want to check really quickly because, YouTuber... I mean, this could just be fake, but I want to be sure. It dies. Oh my god, is this real? YouTuber dies mailing himself home? Wait. Wait. Okay, so... No, okay. This is the wrong video. This was not what I was looking for. I don't know. Is this real? Wait, did he mail himself? No, this is not. Why is it linking to his page? To his Wikipedia page. Okay, well, I don't know. It's also kind of like a creepypasta, and I know that on YouTube a few years back, people would actually do this like YouTube video stunt. So it's been done before, where people would try to pretend to mail themselves back home. Here it says guy mails himself to girlfriend, almost died en route. Did he really try to mail himself? It looks like Rice Gum did it too, and it worked, but I don't know. I can't find a specific name. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure if there's actually a, if there was actually someone who died while doing this, if this is, like, again, just a creepypasta type of story, or there really was someone who died, and it happened. Oh my gosh, either way, this is a terrible way to die. I hope it wasn't real, and this is just like an allegory, or like, kind of like realistic fiction, if you may. Oh wow. Yeah, okay, well, you know, there's a lot of YouTube challenges that people do that's really stupid. Like, don't do things that will harm your health. Like, I know back when the cinnamon challenge was really popular, people would, like, scarf down a spoonful of cinnamon, and then they would almost choke to death, like, because you're not supposed to inhale something like that. Yeah, and then more recently, there was, like, the crate challenge, where people would stack crates into, like, a pyramid and then try to climb it, and a lot of them, there's a lot of videos on YouTube of people falling and injuring themselves, so, you know, don't do it for the likes, guys. It's really not worth it. Please do something a lot more safe. Please keep yourself safe. Your health is more important, okay? Okay, there's one more I have, so let's check that one out. This one, it says, the title is, I had a disturbing conversation with my 7-year-old daughter. Now, right off the bat, I'm gonna say it right here. Little kids are scary. Like, there are so many horror movies that have the little kid, like, possessed trope, and it never gets old. Little kids are always really creepy, whether they're drawing, like, creepy pictures, and then you're trying to decipher, like, what the heck did they draw? Or they're always the ones that have creepy imaginary friends, and they're the ones that always end up being possessed. So, please look after your kids, you know? You don't know what they get up to when you're not around. Okay, let's see. Okay, Dad, I saw a zombie! I was in the kitchen making tea when my little girl came rushing in. She ran through the back door so fast she almost tripped up the step. I poured boiling water from the kettle into a mug, hardly looking up. Oh yeah? Yeah, I did! Its face was all pale and messed up. It was gross, Dad! I put the kettle back and picked up the milk, sighed inwardly. I really had to be more careful about what I watched on TV in the evening. Rosie has a habit of sneaking downstairs in the night, and last week she caught me watching The Walking Dead of all things. She's had zombies on the brain ever since. I kept telling her they're not real, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. Sweetheart, what did we say about zombies? I scooped the tea bag out of the mug and dumped it in the bin. You know, if we keep talking about them, Daddy's going to get in trouble with Mummy again. Yeah, but I saw one. I know, darling, but I already checked the back garden twice yesterday, and I can promise you it's a zombie-free zone. No, not in the back garden. I didn't see it in the back garden. I had the mug half raised to my lips, but now I put it down again. I turned to look at Rosie. Her hair was windswept and her little cheeks were red, as if she'd been running. Sweetheart, I put on my best stern Dad's not happy voice. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest with me. Have you been playing along the path out back again? I didn't really need to ask the question because I already knew the answer. Rosie's allowed to play in the garden on her own. And sometimes, if she asks us permission first, we let her ride her bike along the path at the back of our house, the one that runs past all the neighbors' back gardens. But that's all we allow her to do. This area is pretty safe, but these days you can never be too careful. There was a burglary a couple of roads over a few months back, and last year someone was mugged in the high street. Several years ago, a few towns over, a little boy even went missing. That was quite a way away from here, of course, but it made national news for a few days until the search fizzled out, and it made a lot of parents more cautious. Rosie's getting older now, and she's an adventurous girl, but still, you have to have boundaries. And on a few occasions lately, Rosie's been crossing those boundaries, riding her bike further than she should, not coming in straight away when we call her, sneaking out the back gate when she's only meant to be playing in the garden. As I watched Rosie now, I noticed her face growing redder. She looked away from me, down at the kitchen floor, and scuffed her feet. Dad, I only went a little way down, she said. I promise. I was chatting to Mr. Henderson because I saw him in his back garden. I said hello and made him jump. I sighed. So there it was. Mr. Henderson was Rosie's zombie. Yesterday it was the postman, and the day before it was a different neighbor. I took a sip of tea and shook my head. Mr. Henderson was, in fairness, a better candidate than the others. The guy lives on his own, and he looks about 100 years old. Moles all over his face, skin like a deflated balloon. Whenever we chatted over the garden fence before, though, he'd always seemed nice enough, just a bit lonely. I couldn't have Rosie going around calling him a zombie. Listen, sweetheart, I know you didn't go far or anything, but I don't want you— I came right back after too, Dad, Rosie interrupted. She was staring up at me now, blue eyes large and pleading. I promise! And I even said no when Mr. Henderson offered me an ice cream, because I know you don't like me taking stuff from strangers. Uh-oh, wee-woo. That's suspicious. Good. Rosie, it's good that you didn't take any ice cream from a stranger, okay? I was like, wee-woo, FBI, open up. Oh no, okay. I opened my mouth to respond, then paused. He offered you ice cream? Yeah, but I said no. Mr. Henderson really wanted me to come in and have one, but I told him I had to get home. And then I came straight back here to tell you I'd seen a zombie, and I— Rosie was blabbing now, her voice whirling like a motor. But I'd stopped listening. My mind was still stuck on something she said a moment before. Mr. Henderson really wanted me to come in and have one. I took another sip of tea and frowned. That wasn't good. I didn't mind the neighbors chatting to my little girl, but I didn't like the thought of them inviting her in. Not without us there. Not even if they were just kind, lonely old men. I made up my mind to go round and visit Mr. Henderson later, and to tell him that myself, kindly of course, but firmly. In the end though, I didn't get a chance, because a few moments after I'd had the thought, Rosie said something else. Something that pushed everything else from my mind, and ended any idea I might have had about going over to Mr. Henderson's house. She said something that made me feel cold. Daddy, please don't stop me playing in the garden. I promise I won't sneak out again. I don't want the zombie to get me. Rosie, I'm not going to stop you playing in the garden, but you have to make me a couple of promises too. First, promise me you'll stop going around calling people zombies. Mr. Henderson may be old, but he's not one of the living dead. Rosie frowned. I didn't. What do you mean you didn't? You just ran in here a moment ago calling him one. No, I didn't. Mr. Henderson's not a zombie. I saw the zombie in his house, but it wasn't him. Oh my god, Mr. Henderson has a corpse in his house. I frowned. I had the mug raised to my lips to take another sip of tea, but now I put it down again. What do you mean, sweetheart? You saw someone else in his house? Yeah, the zombie, Dad. I could see it pressed against his little basement window while I was talking to him. Cold fingers ran up my spine. What? Yeah, it was really scary. Its face was all bashed up and bloody, and its mouth was open. Like it was screaming at me. But do you know what confused me most, Dad? I tried to keep my voice steady. What? Well, I didn't realize kids could be zombies too. I thought it was only grown-ups. But I guess I must have been wrong, because the one in Mr. Henderson's basement looked just like a little boy. And that's the end of the story. Oh my god, Mr. Henderson is a pedophile and a child murderer. Oh my god. Oh my god, poor Rosie. What did she see? Oh my gosh. I hope this is not a real story. I hope this is not a true story. Because... oh my god, that's terrible. Okay, why is there a link? Is there a link? What is this? What is this link? Okay, this is a link to their other stories that they've written. Okay. Ooh. Okay. For a second, I was worried. Like, what if they link an actual news article talking about this that happened? I'm pretty sure this is fake, but you know, it's better safe than sorry. You know. What do people say? That's why I will always listen carefully what kids are saying. They can lie most of the time, but you need to make sure that it is a lie. I'm in a live-in nanny situation with an abusive father figure living here, and the kids are kind of creeped out by how attentive I am to the younger two kids when they babble. Only the mother knows I'm constantly recording for evidence. Wait, what? Oh, wait, they're recording the father. Okay. Edit, March 25th. He is removed. The charges are pending, including public endangerment as well as child abuse and... oh. Ad. 1 sec. Okay. He is removed. The charges are pending, including public endangerment as well as child neglect and abuse. Unfortunately, no domestic abuse charges. Wow. If this poster was filming for evidence and the evidence wasn't enough for domestic abuse charges, isn't child neglect and abuse considered domestic abuse? Huh. Just to be safe, I think you should remove Mr. Henderson's head. Well, yeah, I guess the surefire way to defeat a zombie is to cut their head off. Old lady here, when will people learn? Old does not make you nice. Young doesn't make you a shithead. There are nutty bastards, male and female, every race, creed, religion, age, sexual orientation, etc. out there. Every serial killer starts out a cute baby, and if we were unlucky enough, they live to be old. Poor kid. Yeah, oh my gosh, poor Rosie and the poor boy that was lured into the house via ice cream by Mr. Henderson. Rosie's really smart though. She was smart. I mean, first of all, she should definitely not be wandering around in the forest by herself, especially when her parents warned her not to. But she was smart not to take Mr. Henderson's offer and to go into the house for ice cream since she knows not to take food from strangers. I am surprised she wasn't creeped out by the corpse in the back. And I mean, I feel like most people would automatically assume, like, dead body? And she's like, wow, a kid zombie. I mean, but maybe it's better not to let her know. Maybe let the adults handle it, because if she found out, she would be more traumatized than she probably already is. Also, the father should definitely be careful what she watches in the future. She really shouldn't be able to watch The Walking Dead at her age. It's really traumatic for little kids to watch. Anyway, what did you guys think of these 3 stories? Which one was your favorite? They were all really good and creepy in their own way. I think if I had to choose... okay, so, I think the one that seemed the most unrealistic would be the first one. The one with the whistler. Just because of, like, the excessive knocking on all the doors at the same time and the mimic voice. That seems a little supernatural. So that one seems probably more out there. I feel like the YouTuber one and this one, the one with the zombie story, are both super realistic and could happen to anyone. And I think that's what makes them scarier, actually, because they can happen, and they probably have happened in other instances. Not necessarily exactly like this, but I'm pretty sure there are a lot of dangerous people out there that will lure in kids. As we know, stranger danger, right? And then also we know that there's a lot of people who will do anything for internet fame and can really put themselves in danger. So, yeah, the last two stories, the second and third story, I think were the scariest. What did you guys think? Would you be interested in hearing more in the future? There's still a lot of days left for Spooky Month, so let me know if you'd be interested in hearing more stories from the No Sleep subreddit. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Bye-bye!